We are at Emerald Rose Farm with CCP and Ken McNabb and a couple of Ken's, what are you, minions, clinicians, what are we calling them? Arm candy.
Never heard. Those are two terms we've never used. Arm candy or minions.
Welcome
Those
to
are
Candid
both out.
Conversations.
Yeah, this is definitely Candid Conversation. Master certified trainers.
Master certified trainer. I think I saw that on your website. Yes, they're master certified trainers, trained by you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, just finished up day 1 of a 3-day clinic here, which Lauren and Colleen wrote in. Brianna and I kind of watched, and Ken, clinician, what did you do?
Hobbled around.
Hobbled around. Ken's a little injured.
That's right.
Yeah.
But you did it well.
You
and
did.
And you rode and you,
Lots
of
good instruction.
Yeah,
very good instruction. It was really cool. Really cool.
Yes.
Cool to see my horse ride so well. Thank you, Colleen.
Oh, no.
You did awesome.
Yeah, well, thank you. But learning from Lauren and then making the connection with you, and it's every time I do a clinic, it's like a little bit more brightens in the light.
Yeah.
You know, and like when you talked about assertiveness, it finally dawned on me. I'm like, my energy's kind of this, and well, let's kind of do this. And I'm like, no wonder he's like, whatever. I'm not being assertive.
Right.
This is what we need to do. Doesn't mean I'm aggressive.
Right.
I'm just assertive.
Well, you're naturally pretty passive.
Yeah.
So for you to, I probably can't say on camera what I say in my program, but channel your inner beep and make your horse do what you want him to do, especially a horse like Luke that's mostly dog.
Well, what I have found about him is that he's just very persistent at not wanting to do what you want him to do.
Right.
And so he wears you out.
Yes.
Like a kid, right? Like, you know,
Yeah.
can I have that? Can I have that? Can I have that? Oh my gosh, could you? And Lauren's
eventually
like,
you're
don't
like,
give in. Don't give in.
Yeah.
Right?
Eventually you want to say yes.
Right. Well, it's just
so
like, I'm going to wait you
annoying.
out. But anyway, but it was a great day.
Yeah.
You know, I know I'm going to be sore tomorrow and the next 2 days, but that's okay. It is all worth it.
One of the cool things for me on a day like today is watching all of the work that Lauren has done when I'm not here, or that Brianna has done with people, actually come to fruition and see it, and see what they've been doing, you know, while I'm in Wyoming and they're out here working with you guys, and I step in and it's like we were all working together yesterday.
Yep.
You know, it's just one piece. I don't have to go back and be like, oh, no, you're doing that wrong. No, you're spot on. You're right where I want you to be. And you just advanced because of the work you've done with them. And that's really a neat piece for me.
You got to be so proud. I know at least here in Charlotte to have them in this area, and for so many of us to be able to have them either at our farm or to go to them where they are has been a huge blessing.
Yeah, they're a very talented pair, and to have both of them so close to all of you and able to work is really awesome. I'm very proud of the master certified trainers that I have around the country, and you guys certainly have a really good collection of them here.
Yeah, we do collect here.
Yeah, you actually do.
Yeah, well, you know.
Yep.
Now, how did you guys get interested, and how did you connect with Ken, and kind of tell us a little bit about your journey?
Well, I rode growing up, English lessons, got out of it for a couple years, picked it back up, and bought my first horse, and had little to no idea what I was doing because I used to ride, you know, English push button horses. And I told myself I want to go to a clinic, and I want to audit, and I just want to, as soon as possible. I don't care who it is, where it is, as long as it's kind of local. And the only one coming nearby at that time was Ken, and a good friend of mine told me his name because I had no idea.
Was it
So
the
I went-
Yadkinville Clinic?
Yeah, the Yadkinville 3-day clinic, and that was in 2013. No.
Yep.
2013, yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Or 2012. No, I went to Wyoming in 2013.
So it was 2012?
Yeah. But, and I sat and audited all 3 days, took notes, still have my notebook.
That's awesome.
But, you know, took notes, and I learned, I think Justin Hatfield might have been there. So somebody was there that I chatted with about going out to the 3-week clinic. So I just loved the way that Ken taught, explained things, allowed you to figure it out. You know, that really spoke to me, and just the kind of calm energy that he had. So that's how I started following him.
My version of that is that we rode through the first day, and this 12-year-old kid sat over on the sidelines writing and looking and writing and looking, and I was like, I've never seen a 12-year-old with so much focus before. And day 2, that 12-year-old girl was back. Well, she wasn't 12,
right.
but I thought she was.
She still looks 12.
She still looks 12.
Yeah.
So finally I went over and was like, hey, who are you?
What are you doing, kid?
What are you doing? Because she was very focused. It was really fun to watch, and she has always been that focused. She has always been that focused and that driven. You know, she gets a picture in her mind of what she wants, and then she stays with it until she gets it, and that's fun to watch.
Very cool.
How did you start?
Kind of similar to her. Growing up, I never took lessons. I rode bareback on trails, and that was kind of it. And then when we started, I didn't have a horse until I was 18, but my aunt did. So I rode her horse at this boarding barn, and they had the same barn she boarded at. That's how we met.
Oh, okay.
We boarded together,
Oh,
but
that's
they
cool.
had like 10 trail horses, just kind of, and I would always get the trail horses that they didn't want the people coming to ride. Like, I would get the ones that no one wanted to, and I never got lessons. I just ended up with the ones
Here's your
that
horse.
jigged or the ones that did whatever. And I mean, I loved it because thought it was fun.
So did you learn about Ken
Fearless.
from
I
Lauren?
love it.
She did after, I think she had done a few years. I think you had already done your
I think I did.
Wyoming trips, and you told me about the yak and goat clinic. And so I brought my thoroughbred there.
Very cool. That's awesome. I love it.
And when did you complete your certification?
2016.
And how about you?
2019?
And there's 3 sessions, right? Are they 3 weeks long?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
you're-
what you do is you start, there's a 3-week program we call the apprentice level, and that's open to everybody. Actually, the journeyman level is also open to everybody, but it's tested. So it's not tested in, it's tested out. So technically, if you wanted to go through the apprentice level and you didn't really have the ability to become a journeyman, but you wanted to go to it, you're welcome to. But at the end, it's tested. And so whether you test out a journeyman or not is up to you. And in the last couple of years, we've actually, over the last, I would say, 18 to 20 months, we've actually made the testing process much more stringent. We've changed it a little bit, but I think it's tougher now than it was in a lot of ways. And then when you're done with the journeyman, you move on to the master's level, which is also tested. The journeyman has a written test, which is theory, so you really can't get the answer wrong as far as the written test goes, as long as you have the theory right. So it's your words. For me as a horseman, I think it's a mistake to shove people into a pigeonhole and make them all be exactly the same. No 2 horses are exactly the same, so why should we make people be that way? So we give them a lot of leeway there as long as they have the theory right, the concepts right. If they don't, then they can get the answers wrong. An example, if one of the questions is, what is the round pen and how does it pertain to colt starting? So if Brianna were to write on her answer, put the horse in the round pen and run until he's too tired to buck. Okay, you got that completely wrong. The theory is wrong.
No.
Right? So obviously Brianna didn't answer that way, but if you did, then I would say, okay, you got the answer wrong. We need to go back somewhere. We're missing something here. We need to go back over this. And then the practical application of the test, you ride before me and it's scored. And so you either have a pass or a fail score on that. So technically you could pass the theory, but if you fail the practical, you'll fail the journeyman level, and the same with the master level. Now what we did, I really like good students, and I realize some people don't test the way others do. So we've given everybody the opportunity to test 3 times. It doesn't cost any more. So if you test, in the last week and you fail, then you could meet me at a town near you and test again, or you can send the test in on video. You can test up to a total of 3 times without adding any more clinics or costing yourself any more money.
Gotcha.
I would tell you that these 2 both passed easily at each level. Brianna, I think we had to work a little harder at the journeyman level, but then she came back very focused on her master level and had no issues. But most of our trainers do not have issues at those levels, but if they do, we tell them, yeah, you can test again. But the one thing that I tell people, let's just say, Joe shows up and fails the journeyman test twice. Then what I'm going to tell Joe is you need to stay at home for a year or 2 and work on the journeyman level techniques don't just come back 6 months from now ready for the master level, because
Right.
you're not ready for it.
Really do the work.
Go home and do the work. You know, I actually told Brianna, and this is to her credit, Brianna was in a group of very young people, and they got goofing around in their journeyman program, and they just kind of had fun, which is not all bad, but it started to show a little bit on testing day. And I told all of them, if you do not go home and ride 2 hours a day every day for the rest of the year, until next year, don't come back. And when Brianna came back, you could see she had ridden 2 hours a day every day. And I'm not saying she didn't skip a day, but you could see the difference. You could see she got very focused and actually got down to it. My reason for that is twofold. One, I don't want to just take their money and waste their time. And two, I'm really proud of the people who walk around saying they're Ken McNabb Master Certified Trainers.
Yes.
And I want to be proud of those people. So that's kind of how the program works, and both of these two poured their hearts and souls into it and worked their guts out, and I'm glad to see what they're doing with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's
Absolutely.
awesome. So I have a question, because I didn't know that this is where life took you.
Right.
Jennifer actually told me. So I would like to know how you got into this. So for those that don't know, Ken McNabb, the Ken McNabb of RFD TV fame, was just Kenny. Once upon a time. And it's taken me a good 10, I don't know, when did we reconnect? 10, maybe 12 years
10,
ago?
12 years ago,
to
yeah.
get out of that habit of calling you Kenny.
Yeah.
Because we went to school together in Wyoming.
Yeah.
And so to find out that you were some horse trainer, right? And this is your thing, and you've got some show on TV, and then you've got clinicians, and I went, wait, what? Kenny?
Right.
And then to like go and see you, because I drove down to South Carolina, down when you were doing clinics in Clemson with my daughter, and saw, and it wasn't a gimmick, and you'd grown into an actual awesome trainer, and I went, okay.
So, you know, you go back to when we were in school.
Yeah.
Sort of probably some of the pictures that you may not have actually even realized then. Everybody had a horse. Everybody in school, you know, Dad made sure everybody had a horse that was theirs to ride. Maybe you shared the horse with somebody, but that was your horse to ride.
Yeah, I had Ginger.
Ginger, all
But
right?
no training. That one's yours.
That one's yours. That was Dad's deal. That was Dad's deal. Here's a horse. Have fun. And he truly believed that, you know, that kids should just be allowed to just have fun. And, you know, and you remember you weren't allowed to ride with a saddle for a couple of weeks. You had to ride bareback till you could stay on without falling off. And then he'd give you a saddle. That way you couldn't get hung up. It was his theory. I'm not saying I believe the theory. It was just, it was
This
his
is before
theory.
helmets.
You didn't
was
write
his-
you
no, it was
had
way
to put the
before.
saddle on.
No. Just here, have fun.
This is your saddle. Yeah.
So what would happen naturally is when you do that with, you know, 15 kids or 20 kids a year, they're going to screw horses up bad. So what Dad would do, even way back then, and most of the kids just never realized this, is Dad would take my horse and give it to whoever's horse was screwed up the worst, and I would get that horse. And so then I would ride that horse until it was good enough, and by then somebody else's horse, so Brianna's horse would be screwed up. So I would get Brianna's horse and she'd get what I was riding.
Gotcha.
And after a rotation of a few months, maybe by then Lauren's riding my horse and it's screwed up now, and so I would get my horse back.
That is
And
awesome.
so I would be able to ride my
clue.
horse for a while. And so that happened a lot. And, you know, so I always grew up working, but not knowing what I was doing, just knowing, you know, Dad's theory and teaching was don't let them win. That was his whole thing.
Sure.
Don't let them win. Don't let them get away with anything.
Yeah.
And so, you know, today I always say to people, how is that horse going to win? Mm-hmm. It's a whole 180 from his philosophy of don't let them win to how can they win? What do they get out of it? And Dad's a good horseman in his own right, but he didn't understand the concepts the way we talk about them today at all. So, you know, probably, I was probably in 7th or 8th grade when you were there, I don't remember.
8th, because it was
8th
my
grade.
freshman year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my 9th grade year, which would have been the year after you left, I really, really started wanting to ride other people's horses.
Yep.
And get paid for what I was doing at home for free.
Right.
I wanted to get paid for it. And so I started, and shortly into it, I had a really bad horse. this guy brought me a horse that could really, really buck, and she could buck inside this circle right here and not leave the circle. And even if you stayed on, you would wish you hadn't. I mean, she was just really rough. And honestly, in a lifetime of dealing with problem horses and bad horses and horses that buck a lot, I would say she's probably one of the 5 worst horses I've ever ridden in my life. And here I was, a 14-year-old kid, and this guy brings me this horse. And so today I know for a fact, although he's never admitted it, that Dad set that up. And if he was sitting here, right? If he was sitting here right now, all he would do is smile and chuckle. And he would not agree or disagree, which means he set it up.
Absolutely.
So he set it up because he wanted me to get my fill of it.
Yeah.
He wanted me to get my fill of it. Well, that wasn't happening. I wasn't getting my fill of it. So another guy came to me, and I think Dad had a hand in this as well, and he offered me a video. He said, I hear you have a pretty bad horse to ride. And I said, yes, I do. His name was Hank Sifford. And I said, yes, Mr. Sifford, I do have a pretty bad horse to ride. He said, well, I want you to come to my house. We were at church. He said, I want you to come to my house this afternoon, and I have some information I want to share with you. So I went over to his house, and he gave me, we sat down in his living room and watched it, but he gave me a pirated copy of John Lyons' videotape, Round Pen Reasoning.
Okay.
And then, produced by Farnham. And then he gave me a book by Monty Foreman, Horse Training Science. And he sent me home with those 2 things, and he gave them to me as gifts. And Hank was into race horses and had been all over the world and been in high money syndicates and race horses. He had also worked directly for Monty Foreman. And so he was a great reference for a young trainer coming up. And so I took that video home and I watched it at home, and my dad came in, and you know Dad and his skepticism, and he walked in and he looked at the video and he said, well, it's plain to see that doesn't work. He said, that video is not telling the whole story. They're editing a lot out that you're not seeing.
Sure.
And I said, Dad, this horse has my attention. Like, she bucked me off once by then hard. I remember, I still have a very clear memory of it 32 years later. I hit the ground hard enough on my back to get up with a nosebleed. And so I said, Dad, she has my attention. And so I'm going to try it. And I was hooked. I was hooked. And so not long after that, he came to me and he said, hey, if you're going to do this, you need to learn to do it right. So he said, I want you to pick somebody to learn from, and I want you to go learn from them. And so I said, well, hey, what about this guy in the videotape? Like, he's good.
Yeah.
And Dad said, what do you know about him? I said, nothing. I mean, I know he says he's a Christian, but I don't know anything else about him. And Dad said, well, call and find out. And so I called and signed up for a clinic actually in Clemson. The first clinic I ever attended was in Clemson. And I flew all the way out here and
by
went
yourself?
to that clinic. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. Got on the airplane. I'd never left home alone before.
And that was a John Lyons clinic?
It was a John Lyons
How
clinic.
old were you at the time?
15.
Okay.
You flew from Wyoming to Clemson.
Yep.
But wasn't he based out in Colorado? Or
yeah, but the clinic that they had openings for the soonest was in Clemson.
Okay, and you were ready.
I was ready to go. And so I walked into the arena, sat down on a Saturday morning and watched 15 minutes of the symposium and made up my mind, this is what I'm going to do the rest of my life.
Wow.
I knew as clear as anything.
I just got chills. I've never heard this.
I loved watching it. I loved, growing up where I grew up, my parents were all about helping people, still are. That's what turns their clock. They love to help people. And so I wanted to help people, but I really loved horses. And I really wanted to be a part of horses and the horse industry and the whole ag industry, ranching in general. And I was really at that point in my life not sure how to mix the two. And when I walked into that Coliseum and I sat down, and I had never met John Lyons in my life, but I watched him work and I listened to him talk, and I realized this is exactly what I want to do. And so I tell people all the time, there are only a few professional clinicians. The rest were accidental.
Yeah.
Right? So John Lyons ended up a clinician by accident. He was a rancher, and he happened to be really good at training horses and teaching people, and so he became a clinician by accident. Same with Ray Hunt, same with Pat Pirelli. They were very professional in their approach to it, but they did not choose that. But Clinton Anderson and myself, and probably Chris Cox, Josh Lyons, we chose. We said this is an industry that we want to be professionals in, and so I made that decision sitting there that morning, and I have not regretted it or turned back.
That is really cool. I had always thought, in talking to Michael Lyons, that Josh went to Fort Shiloh.
He did.
But that's what drew you to John.
No, other way around.
So you
I drew
found
Josh.
John.
Yeah.
And then Josh went there.
Yeah.
There's
a lot.
I didn't know that either.
I wish Josh was sitting here because there's a lot of really humorous stories from that. As you
that's
can
a
well
whole.
imagine.
We will fly out for that one because
That's a
believe
whole
me.
nother deal. But
Yeah.
so when I first met John, I've always been pretty quick at reading people, and he had a funny look on his face, and I didn't like it. There was an instant, I mean, the moment he shook my hand, there was just a different look in his eyes, and I thought, that wasn't good. I don't know why that was, but it wasn't good. And so we went through that first 3-day clinic, and Dad told me on the phone, he said, hey, find out how you go to lunch with him. You need to be sitting down talking to him nonstop. And I said, Dad, it's not like that. He doesn't let people go to lunch with him. You just don't go to lunch with him. And Dad said, go ask. So I did. I went to him and said, hey, can I buy you lunch today? And he said, no, but you can go with me. And so we went and we had lunch and we just visited, and we really, I think he saw in me a lot of his own son.
Yeah.
I think he saw a lot of Josh in me, and he was missing home. And so there was a piece that I got early on that other people didn't get.
Yeah.
Because Josh and I, have become since then such close friends, and we are so similar. We're different as night and day, but we are so similar in so many ways. So I followed up that clinic by flying out a couple of weeks later and meeting John and Susie in Tucson. And so I flew into Tucson, and John came walking up to me. And I remember he had a weird look on his face that first day. So he came walking up to me in the hotel lobby, and he had his arm in a sling. And there'd been 1 week or two in between, and he'd been in Pomona, California, got bucked off and broke his collarbone. And so he came up to me in the hotel lobby, and he said, hey, Ken, I need you to do the unbroke course in the symposium. And I was like, no, that's not going to happen.
That's not why I'm here.
And I mean, I wasn't a smart aleck about it, but I was like, Mr. Lyons, I don't think that's a good idea, at all. And he was like, no, it'll be good. And I was like, no, you don't understand. I've only ever worked a few horses in the round pen. Like, this round pen thing's new to me. And he was like, oh, that's fine. That'll work. Good. Perfect. And I was like, no, I don't want to do this. And I was really adamant, I don't want to do it. And he was really adamant that I should. And he said, look, you got to understand, my arm's broken. My shoulder's broken. I can't do it. And he said, for reasons you'll understand later in life, my wife can't do it. And he said, my road manager, Richard, is very busy. He can't do it. So he said, you're kind of the only option. And I was like, I would check behind door number 2 because this one doesn't look good for you. I was pretty adamant that I wasn't going to do it. And he said, well, I want you to talk to your dad about it. I knew how that was going to go.
I don't want to talk to my dad about it.
So I called Dad up that night, and he said, I think you should do it. And I said, Dad, I don't want to do it. Yeah. He said, well, pray about it. I said, I don't want to pray about it either.
I don't know what he thinks either.
I already know what he... So the upshot of it was I did it. The next day I did it. It was a really rough colt. He was a coming 3-year-old stud horse. He bit and struck, and he was pretty ignorant, pretty mean. And I learned a ton. It was a life-changing experience for me. Autographed my first anything. I autographed one of John's books. A lady came up to me afterwards. Can I have your autograph? I know it's going to be important someday.
Oh,
and
cool
so
is that?
I autographed
Very
the book Lions on Horses. And so when it was over, John and Susie and I went to dinner, just the 3 of us. And John said, Ken, I have to tell you, the day I met you in Clemson, I was very upset. I do not allow kids your age into my clinics. Had I known your age, you would have never been allowed to sign up. And he said, I wanted to choke the girls in my office for not asking. Because he said, I didn't want to tolerate a teenage boy in my clinics. And he said, today, I thank God for your age, because if you were any older, you'd have been too smart to let me put you through that today. So, but through that whole time, I spent 2 weeks with him then in Arizona. And that's how Josh ended up at our place. He ended up going to school with us because Susie wanted to travel, and Josh and Brandy were the last 2 kids at home, and so they sent Brandy to a boarding school for girls. I think she actually went out to, I've lost the name on it just a second, school that Richard Winters worked at. But anyways, Brandy went out to California to school, and Josh came and lived with us. And I had not met Josh up to that point, but that cemented a lifelong, really important friendship. We spent a lot of time getting in trouble together. Having a lot of fun.
Which is really hard to do in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming.
Yeah, well, it would seem that way, but it seems it's not. It's
Well,
easier.
You're very creative.
We were
then.
very creative.
Yeah.
Very creative. We did a lot of things. So we had.
We
a lot
won't
of
talk
fun.
about those on camera.
No,
Yeah.
some of those are still sealed.
Private moments.
Yeah.
Private moments, yes.
Yeah.
In
we
the
had
middle
fun.
of.
We had a good
And then how did your
Wyoming.
career go from there? I mean, like once you graduated from high school, I mean, I'm sure you were training horses still. Then how did you
Yeah,
branch
so-
out to then doing the symposiums and then continuing to build your brand?
So, again, knowing then where I wanted to be today, okay, and I just did an article on goals the other day. I really am a goal-driven person, and so Amy can tell you we used to run every day. We ran 4 miles a day every day during the school year.
Wow.
And so what I would do is I always wanted to be done with it. I hated it. I love running today, but I hated it then because it took up valuable time. So I would set goals for myself. I'm not going to quit running till I get to this spot. And then when I would get to almost to that spot, I would set a new goal because I just wanted to be done with it. And that really developed a habit in my life. I love goals. And I believe that you need to write your goals down, and then I believe you need to tell people your goals. And that cements them and they become. So in getting where I am today, those were goals that I wanted to do. So after traveling with John on the road to different clinics and whatnot, I asked him one day, I said, what's next? What do I do next? And he said, well, I've got this certification program coming up. It's the first time we've ever done it, and I'd like to have you in it. And so I went through a certification program. To this day, I'm the youngest person to ever graduate a certification program.
That's awesome.
To start it and finish it. And so it was a fantastic deal. But here I am, an 18-year-old kid. And what I really learned in all of that was how much I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I went home and I took in hundreds of horses. Like over the next couple of years, if you called me, and literally I would get these phone calls, people would call and they'd say, hey, I want to send you my horse. I said, okay, well, that's good. What do you have? Well, I have a 3-year-old paint horse and I need it started. I said, okay. And they'd ask, what do you charge? And I'd tell them $350 for 30 days. And they'd say, oh, well, I don't have that much money, but I do have hay. And I'd say, okay, well, how much hay do you have? Well, I have enough to feed the horse for a month. And I'd tell them, great, bring the month worth of hay and the horse. And I'd work them for free. I didn't care. I wanted
the experience.
I wanted to put my hands on hundreds of horses. And today, when I walk into an arena, and I don't mean this to sound arrogant, but when I walk into an arena, there's nothing I'm going to put my hands on I haven't already done before.
Right.
I worked hundreds and hundreds of horses. So one of the things I would do, again, how do you get from where you are to where you want to go? A lot of people need to know. And so I would make flyers and I would go to the BLM adoptions and I would walk around and I would put them under every single set of windshield wipers. I put flyers on every windshield wipers in the parking lot.
Marketing.
That's drive.
And I would get phone calls and people would be like, oh, we just adopted our first horse ever. We've never owned a horse before. And I would get that horse and that customer, and I'd be like, okay, and again, lots of times we don't have any money. That's why we got a Mustang because they're $125. That's all we had. And I would work them, and I worked tons of BLM horses. So there's a lot of people that I have to, think back and say this person made a huge impact in my life. But Rick Blumenthal lived in Goldendale, Colorado, and he called me up out of the blue. I didn't know him. He called me up and he said, you've been really recommended to me by John Lyons' office as capable of handling BLM horses. And I've adopted 2 horses out in Palomino Valley outside of Reno, Nevada. And I want you to go pick them up for me. And I'm going to pay you to pick them up, pay you to haul them home, pay you for your time. And I want you to ride them for me for 30 days. So I drove out to Palomino Valley, me and a buddy, jumped in the truck and went out there. And I must have been 18 or 19. And they run these horses in. And he's got a paint horse that today you would drool to have this horse. He was gorgeous. He showed breeding in every line of him. Even though he was a Mustang, literally, he was shaped like and looked like Hillbilly. That's what he looked like. He was gorgeous. And then they brought in this Palomino horse. And he'd already named the Palomino horse. He told me on the phone he'd named it Trigger. He was a huge Roy Rogers fan. So I called him up and I said, Mr. Blumenthal, how tall are you? How big a guy are you? He said, I'm 6'2", 205 pounds. I said, sir, you don't want this Palomino horse. He said, why? I said, well, first of all, he's the ugliest horse here. I said, hands down, he's the ugliest horse here. And I said, secondly, he is, maybe 14 hands, maybe 750 or 800 pounds. And he said, no, that can't be. He said, I looked at him through binoculars the day I adopted him. I said, well, you had him on too high a power?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Your feet are going to drag on the ground.
I'm standing here next to him and I'm telling you want me to reject him and pick you another one. And he said, no, bring him home. Okay. So we loaded him in the trailer and we went home with him. And I started working them, and I got them broke to ride. Both of them were pretty neat horses. We had a lot of different. Okay, let me rephrase that. I learned a lot from both of them. The yellow horse was never a horse that I admired much in any way. I really couldn't find a lot about him that I liked. And so he took him home. And when he came and saw the Palomino horse, he said, "Oh, I should have let you pick another one for me." So he went home, and it was probably a year or so later. He called me up, and he'd sent me several more horses in the meantime. But a year or so later, he called me up and he said, I have a student. Rick was really pushing me, always pushing me to start doing clinics. And I would tell him, Rick, I'm not old enough to do that. And that was probably in 94 and 95. So I was 19, 20 years old. And I'd tell him, Rick, I'm 20 years old. People don't want to learn from me. And Rick would tell me, no, you're missing the boat on that. People are going to see that you are just all horse, and they're going to want to spend time with you. And so he called me up then in January of 96, so I was 20 years old. And he said, I have a student here that's bought Trigger from me, and she's bought another Mustang. And he said, she's coming to spend a month with you. She's going to give you $2,800 for the month, and you're going to put together a program for her. I said, okay, all right.
Didn't sound like a question.
No, it wasn't. And she did. Jennifer Glider came out of Golden, Colorado, and she spent a month at our place in January and February. It was bitter cold. We flooded. It was miserable. But she worked her horses, and it really boosted my confidence. And I thought, well, shoot, if one person would do that, so would many others. Right. And so I took the $2,800 she gave me. I spent some of it on the expenses of having her there. The rest of it I invested in advertising with Horse and Rider magazine. Okay. And started running ads in March of 1996. I started running ads for a 3-week program in Horse and Rider magazine, and just went from there. Wow. And every time someone signed up, I just reinvested the money in building the business. And every time I got money, I put it back in marketing somewhere.
Wow.
And just kept working to build that business with the goal of where I wanted to be the whole time. So, I tell people all the time, I get kids that come intern for me and they kind of whine and cry about conditions, or they whine and cry because they have to work too hard, and I tell them all, you're going to have to cry to somebody else, because I've been there and I have no sympathy for you. No. You either want it bad enough, right, or you don't. My wife and I were talking about a young man about a year ago, and I said, he'll never make it. And she looked at me and she said, that's really arrogant of you to say that. What makes you think you can say that? And I said, because you can see it in the eyes of the ones that will. They're the ones that are hungry enough to be out there after dark still working. Mm-hmm. And I told her, when I was that guy's age, Dad came down to the round pen and I was working a colt in the dark. It was pitch black out. And Dad came down and said, what are you doing? I said, I'm working this horse. It was a BLM Mustang horse. And he said, you can't see anything. I said, I know, I'm learning to feel. I'm learning to feel what's happening here. The next day, he went and got big halogen bulbs and put them on a post above the round pen, so I had lights that night to work. But I told my wife that. I said, you know what? People who want it don't sit around and complain about why it won't work. They go get it. Whatever it is. I don't care if it's horsemanship or a law degree. Whatever it is, if you want it, you go get it. And not everybody has to want it. That's perfectly okay.
No, totally.
That's perfectly okay. But it does give you the ability to look at somebody and say, no, they're not going to make it. Because if they want it that bad, I said, Lauren sat there for 3 days, never moved on hard wooden benches. she never moved. She sat there for 3 days taking notes.
You can see that. You can see the drive in a 12-year-old. You can see,
you know, 18 or 19.
Correct, whatever you were. You can see a woman in January or February in Wyoming out there working her horse.
Right.
And you can see, it's cold. I don't want to do that.
Right.
There's a difference.
There's a huge difference between a person looking for an excuse and a person looking for results.
If you're looking for an excuse, you will find one.
Absolutely.
Every time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How bad do you want it?
That's right.
And I love that about everybody that we come in contact with, be it through Candid Conversations or the Horsemanship Clinic series at Leatherman Lane or your clients that come to the farm. Like, I love it. Everything about it. They want it. And they're willing to work to get it. And that's my drive. I have goals that are off the chart ridiculous, but I want it to where I have to have my accountability partner go, seriously, you have to take a break.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
But, you know, but it's good
balance.
to see that. It is balance.
Yeah.
But there's a lot in the world right now that...
But I love this as an example.
Yeah.
And that this will go out and people will watch and be inspired.
Right.
Because we need to reignite that part.
Yes.
And that passion of hard work. Let's celebrate that.
It does pay off.
You know, like, let's make that, you know, part of America again. I don't want to get political or go into that campaign.
But I
you know
agree
what I
with
mean?
you 100%. And I think you can actually talk about that and not get political.
Yes.
Okay.
I think you can actually look at that and say, I don't care what side of the political aisle you stand on.
Yeah. Right.
The bottom line is, there is not a congressman standing in the halls of Congress who didn't work their guts out to get there.
Right.
And so they have to step back and say, and it's time, like you said, it's time as Americans we step back and say, we got to stop rewarding those who are doing nothing and disciplining those who are working their guts out. We've got to invert that. I don't care what side of the aisle you stand on.
Yeah.
The reality is, if we go back all the way to the Jamestown settlement, if John Smith said, if you don't work, you don't eat. And it's that simple.
Yeah.
So we've got to get to a point, honestly, without getting into politics, we have to get to a point where young people who are willing to work are rewarded for their efforts. And people who don't want to work, that's okay, but you're just going to have less in life.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's not good for society to take A and B and say, well, A works really hard and B doesn't work really hard, but we'll give them the same thing.
Yeah. No, absolutely not.
It won't work.
Well, and it demoralizes the person that really wants to achieve things and grow and do things. It's like, well, if they're just going to give that to them, I'll do what I need for me personally, but
it takes all the drive out of A.
it does. It really does.
It just says, why would I do that?
Yeah. Well, over time it just beats you down.
Yeah.
But it's inspiring. And I do have to thank Lauren a lot. She's really helped me with my horse and pushed me. And like we did side passing, which to a lot of people could do, okay? But to me, I never thought I could do it. I just put that wall up, like you put that barrier up, like, you know what, I can't do it. And where I thought that, but then Lauren's like, no, we'll break it down and you can do it. And we can side pass. And I cried. I was just so, like, I was like, oh my God, Lauren, you don't know.
I did it.
And that opened up the doors for other things. I'm like, well, challenge that. You don't think you can do that? Really?
Right. Yeah. And so now all of a sudden you step back and you look at it, and this is what I wish every little kid could learn. And I was very blessed. My dad simply didn't know how to spell no. You know, not no like to a kid. Yes, he could say no to a kid, but can't, I guess, is what he couldn't spell can't. That's a better way to say it. He would just tell us how bad you want to do it. Figure it out. So once you broke it down, you know, Lauren showed you, break it down into these little pieces, then you can step back and say, wait a minute, I can do that with anything. It doesn't matter what it is.
Right.
I can step back, and I probably think that, you know, as much as anything, when I went to that first clinic in Clemson, I probably walked out of there learning more about life.
Yes.
Because there's nothing I can't do. All I have to do is break it down.
Right.
Set the goal and break it down. So, all right, you know, here's the goal, and how do I get there?
Well, I really liked how in the clinic, when I told you, sometimes I need to take the break. We're doing the exercise, and you're like, well, you're giving your horse a break, and I'm like, well, I have to admit I'm giving me a break because I'm getting overwhelmed. And then you were like, nope, break it down in steps. So that's what I need to start doing, is when I work Luke or work Chief, it's like, okay, what do I want to accomplish, and what are the steps? And then that'll really help me.
It does. You know,
follow through.
Brianna and I were talking earlier today, and I was asking her, she's training horses, and I said, "All right, do you have an outside job?" And she said, "No, I had to quit my outside job because I was turning down horses so that I could do my outside job." Okay, well, that's it. You break it down into pieces, and you start and you say, "Well, I want to be this horse trainer, okay, or I want to be a lawyer. I don't care what it is you want to be. This is what I want to be, but I'm not there. So I may have to sell shoes on my way to there." But I break it down step by step by step, and then one day I realize, shoot, I can't sell shoes anymore, or manage a barn, or whatever. I don't have time for that because my business is running full time, and that's that's the concept. Is you have to try to put all those pieces together, and once you've experienced it somewhere, and that's the hard part right now is where do young people get to experience that? That's the thing that we really need to work on, is how do we get young people to be able to experience that success, because success breeds success. Once you've been successful at one thing and you can say, well, I had to quit my job because my business that I was running took over, then even if you change that business or you decide to do something different, you have that success to launch from.
For sure. Well, I was working at the airport to travel more, but I took a management position because I needed that to expand the facility. Well, I expanded the facility so much, I don't have time to work at the airport.
Right.
I'm losing all those great benefits, but that's okay because I actually accomplished my goal.
You got what you wanted.
Right? And I don't know how I did both at the same time, but I did.
Careful, your dream will catch you.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I've never worked harder in my life. But yeah, you
so
do
lucky
one.
to work for yourself.
It's so great. Yeah. It's like,
all the days off you want.
Well, we're working on the balance in the brain.
You've got the support team going, you're taking tomorrow off. Yeah, for sure.
Everything's covered. You're good. You can.
I love how you related John's clinic to not just horses, but to life. Because we say that a lot. That's actually our little slogan on Candid Conversations. Everything about our life is about horses, but everything that we learn and do with our horses relates back to life.
Absolutely.
And that's our barn, that's this show, that's our grounded horsemanship program, that's Letterman Lane, that's everything that we do. That's all the people we come in contact with. You learn so much from these horses that then you can take and transition into life. Stressful day, totally annoying person, well, you should breathe through that. Don't hit that person, right? Like,
they run around the round pen.
It's really satisfying to hit them, but it's not a good idea.
But that could maybe relate to the horse. Everything that we do helps us outside of the farm as well. It's
oh, absolutely. My horse
awesome.
has been probably my best teacher.
Oh yeah,
of life. Of unconditional love, of patience, of
responsibility.
Making a mistake and it's okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna get through it. But he's brought amazing people into my life too.
Oh, for sure.
But he's definitely priceless.
Isn't it funny how small the world becomes?
Oh my gosh. We were just saying, I mean, all of it.
Right.
Well, I remember going to see John Lyons in 2005 at the NFR. He did like a little symposium, and my mom and I were there because we wanted to go to the rodeo, and sitting there and watching John Lyons and just being like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. And then, to meet you, and then to meet Michael, like it's just like, wow.
And to take it even further, I mean, how small the world is. We were there at those symposiums in 2005.
Right.
Right?
Like
Now you're blowing my mind. Okay.
That's how small the world really is.
Maggie, whose farm we're at, was at that clinic in Clemson.
Right.
When I took my daughter down to see him for the first time, 12, 13 years ago?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's just that small.
That is crazy.
It's a tiny little world. And
it's awesome.
It's so cool.
Love it.
It's so cool.
It's one of the cool things about the master certification program that we have is like these two are here in North Carolina, but if I started naming names, they both know master certified trainers from all over the United States that they can network with and help each other out, and they went through programs, or maybe a master certified trainer was there helping teach the program they were in, and it becomes, if you step back and you look at the sky and you see a million stars at night and you think, oh my word, it's a massive big world, and it is. But when you start looking at the points of connection, it really gets quite small. And it allows all of us who are willing to network inside of it a huge opportunity where, you know, Brianna can call Kia in Seattle and say, Kia, I'm looking for this.
Right.
And Kia will say, well, gee, I don't know, maybe call Chuck in Alabama, or, you know,
it's a network.
Try, you know, and it allows us, and what happens is you just keep meeting people, and it just keeps getting to be, you start realizing how small the world really is. There's someone next to you who knows you that you didn't know knew you.
Like, what is it, 6 degrees of separation
Yeah.
or something?
Yep.
That saying,
Yeah.
and it is really true.
Very,
Well,
very
for
true.
you to be one of my dearest friends now, but you were at the Yadkinville Clinic, and we all went to dinner together
Yeah,
years ago.
Michael,
I didn't
Julia
know
were
you.
there.
I didn't pay. You were just one of his clinicians.
Oh my
you know,
gosh,
we
that
were
is so cool.
Michael, Julia, you, me, Mark. You know, let's go to dinner. And now Lauren's at our farm, and she's our friend, and we're vacationing together. And it's like, but that's so bizarre.
Right.
Like that's not how we met. But
No.
it's awesome.
It's a result of why you all get along.
Correct.
Yeah, and I met my best friend in Wyoming at his 3-week clinic. She lives in New Hampshire,
That's so
and
great.
every 3 months or so, one of us flies to the other one.
I love
We
that.
just hang
Yeah.
out.
That's great.
All because of horses.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, when you sit there and think about who you know because of horses,
Oh my gosh.
I wouldn't know anyone.
Right. I know. Yeah. It's only our horse friends that really get our level of crazy, I think.
Yeah, right.
Because I have friends that are non-horse people that just don't understand. You know, you're always at the barn. You're always there. Yeah, isn't it great?
And you're like, and
No,
your point
they don't
is,
get it. But my people, my barn family, they get it.
Well, and what I love about Leatherman Lane too is Amy works and has a very open mind to just continuing to learn. And so we've been able to, my horse and I, with the help of Lauren too, been able to just really grow and see what else is out there. And then, I mean, the opportunity here, I probably, if I was at another barn, probably, maybe not come. Well, I wouldn't have Luke
Well,
to utilize for the clinic.
You
I'd
may
have-
not have even known about it.
right.
Well, that
Yeah.
is true.
Well,
You know, that is very true. So, you know.
Well, I'm still learning. I mean,
Oh, sure.
my entire life was, that one's yours. Or here's your horse, it's packed up and ready to ride. Never was there any instruction.
Right.
Until I didn't know who John Lyons was. I didn't know who any clinicians were. I didn't watch this stuff on TV. I found Joyce Lewis and started following her, and then she offered an internship program, and I went, that's me all day long, I'm totally doing that. And I got there and drove an hour to work with this woman, and then cried the whole hour home because I was too stupid to own horses, and we were going to get killed. We had to sell our horses. And Mark was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, she's brilliant, I'm a moron, we're gonna die. Right? But that started something. And you know, she's talking about Clinton Anderson and this person and that person. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. But it sparked, right? And then that spirals. And now it's like, okay, I actually have a grounded horsemanship program. I'm actually using what she and Michael and all of these amazing clinicians I work with to help these women with their groundwork. Now, I don't do anything in the saddle, and I'm not a trainer. Guess who does?
Right.
Lauren. Here's your trainer.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Go learn how to ride with her. You know, but that I can share what's been gifted to me. That's a huge accomplishment for me. That makes me feel good to be able to help these other women. And a lot of it, in all honesty, is trauma work and anxiety work and breath work, but using the horses. And then there's groundwork and getting them to move and moving their feet and really syncing with them in their mind. And then once that's where it needs to be, then take all of that and go do it in the saddle with Lauren.
So I mean, and we've kind of said this 8 different ways, but look back to being a 14-year-old freshman in Wyoming.
Right.
Did you visualize what horses would do for people through you in your life?
No. At 14 in Wyoming, that was how I was going to run away from home. I mean, that's all we did in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming, was plan our escape. Right? Let's get out of here. Out of here was many hours away. I think that was planned. But
It wasn't an accident.
you know. But no, I had no idea. Now, I always loved them.
Right.
They always touched my soul.
But you had no idea
clue.
at that time.
I didn't plan on owning a farm, scooping poop all day long, helping women, you know, with horses. None of that was
Or
a plan.
having this program.
Or have any of it. Yeah. This
And that's
family
what-
and this just none of it was.
That's what's amazing about this industry. And really, I mean, it's anything in life.
Yep.
if you allow it to take you there.
Yep.
So I recently was on a film shoot, and NFL great Vern Davis was there. And so I asked him, it was not where you would expect to see an all-time leading wide receiver. It just really wasn't. And so we're riding together down the road, horseback, and I looked over at him and I said, "Why are you doing this?" And he said, "Because I don't know where it'll take me."
Love that.
It was a brilliant answer.
Oh
I
my
loved
gosh.
it.
That's
He said, "It's
awesome.
an opportunity and I don't know where it'll take me, so I'm here."
Heck yeah.
I absolutely loved it. And so, you know, that night I was talking to Dee Dee and I said, "Look, you know, I never thought that I would give Vern Davis a riding lesson.
Right?
Like, why would I give him a riding lesson?
Yeah.
What would be the chance in my life for that?" But when you're open to opportunity and you're willing to follow where God directs you, you end up in these amazing places doing these amazing
Amen.
things.
With
And
amazing people.
With amazing people.
Yeah.
And that wasn't what I started out to do, but it was really fun. It was really a great experience. And you go back to that, and at 14, all I wanted to do was run away from home on a horse. Right?
I wanted to run away from your home on a horse.
No, I didn't. I was happily home. No, but you wanted to. I was speaking for you.
Yeah, you were fine there.
Yeah, I was still pretty content. But at 14, you know, your main goal with the horse is run away from home. And today it enables you to help all of these people who are struggling with their own struggles, whether emotional or physical, fear. You're able to help all of these people through these situations because you have a lifetime of experience with horses. And what you chose to do with it, you know, you're right, for all those years that, you know, are gapped in our friendship, there was lots of things going in both worlds, both directions.
Yeah.
But when you come back to where we are today, you know, you have this whole program here, and you have all these people that you're working with and helping, and it really started trying to run away on Ginger.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where it
Walk away. Ginger didn't run.
didn't run anywhere. Old Ginger never ran anywhere in her life. And she was young. She wasn't
my
old.
gosh,
She
what
was
a
born
nag.
old.
She was really like 1,000 years old.
Yeah, she was born old, and she wasn't very pretty.
No, she was fugly.
Yeah. She was
Jen's
rough.
horse Mariah was pretty.
Mariah was great. She
So
was
we
a
would
grand
switch
old mare.
because Jen could make Ginger go and Mariah just went.
Yep.
And over sagebrush she went. And I thought, oh, if I die, I die.
Yeah.
A little scary. Yeah. Yeah.
And you sit and think about, at least I sit and think about horses that I've known throughout my life.
Oh, yeah.
And that little Mariah horse is one that, she was just an incredible little mare. Like,
Yeah?
if you had her today, you'd still love her.
She was
an
cool.
incredible little horse.
Little paint.
Yeah, you might not let your kids or your grandmother ride her because she's quite a little bit, but she was
Otherwise,
Yeah.
just a
Yeah.
neat little chocolate and white paint mare that was...
Thank God Jennifer knew how to ride. I'll say that much. She taught me how to tack my horse, what to do with the horse. I had no clue. This is my roommate at boarding school. Here's how you do it. Here's how you don't die.
Yep.
And then off we went into the middle of nowhere, Wyoming.
And you didn't die.
And I didn't die.
No one ever did.
No.
In all the years that he just
saying
turned
something.
people out like that,
Right?
no one ever even got hurt.
That's awesome.
No one ever even got hurt on a horse. I mean, not
crazy.
beyond sore, you know,
Yeah.
if people
Yeah.
fell off, but
Yeah.
nope, in all the years that he did that, horses didn't get hurt, people didn't get hurt. He just really believed that horses, long before you heard of equine therapy, Dad understood that horses understand.
Yeah.
And he didn't really care what you did with the horse. You didn't have to ride if you just wanted to stand down there and talk to it. He wasn't, you know, he didn't hire therapists, but all these kids come from all over and they're not with their families and they've been sent to boarding school and they're not real happy and, you know, they're not where they thought they were going to be in life. So he just said, here, have a friend who won't mouth off back to you. And that was his purpose, and it worked. Is it the way I would do it?
No.
No, but it worked.
Yeah. And I don't know if that would work in today's world.
That's what my grandma was talking about. That actually, another backtrack why I love horses so much is my dad's mom. They had a ranch in Kansas,
Okay.
and every summer they did a Christian summer camp, and they had 40, 50 horses, and no one used saddles. Everyone was bareback. No one, helmets didn't exist.
Right.
The horses were, I mean, no no one died.
Right.
But
Yeah.
they weren't, my grandma was like, what were we thinking? And that's just what they did. And my
Right.
dad and my aunt, they would keep 2 horses up at the barn every night, or maybe 3. And my dad, my aunt, and another one of their brothers would ride those horses out every morning and bring all the other ones in. And then, like, that's just what they did.
Just
No
different
saddles,
times.
no
Yeah.
nothing.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and we wouldn't do it today that way because we have therapists and we have educated people. But the reality is, it would still work.
Oh, it would
Because
totally work.
People are still people, and horses
Yep.
are still amazing.
Yep,
They are.
absolutely.
It's that, I mean, you see it all the time. You see little kids. Oh my goodness. So, our first year on RFD TV, so we've been on RFD TV almost 17 years now.
Wow.
So
That's
Trent
awesome.
was not quite 1, or he was just at 1 year old. And I remember we're filming our 3rd show ever. And so I hear something behind me, and we're in this round pen. I turn around and I look, and walking through the pen in my boots is 1-year-old Trent, who's barely learned how to walk, and he's wearing a pair of my boots, and he's in his diaper, nothing else.
Stop it.
And he's walking through the corral where my 2-year-old sled colt is. And Stormy has his head down with his nose on the ground, and Trent is hugging his head on this 2-year-old sled horse. Horses are still horses.
Absolutely.
They still understand people better than anything but dogs. Dogs and horses have that ability to understand people. And so it still works when you see distraught people for whatever reason they're distraught. When they get around a horse, if they will let it, things start changing.
If they will let it.
If they will let it.
But they'll be more likely to let that happen than if it was a person.
Yeah.
Oh, heavens, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they build walls and resistance right away with people.
Yeah. Mark had a horse, a Palomino racking horse, and I didn't like him. He was big, he was intimidating, he could be honoring, and we just didn't get along. And one day I was getting ready for a tax sale. There's a yearly tax sale out here called the Equestrian Exchange, and everybody tags their stuff and takes it out, and it's a huge sale. I'm tagging my stuff, and Mark's out of town, and it's raining, and I'm by myself, and it's dark because I'm working a full-time job, and I slip and I fall and I lost it. I'm hysterical. I've just let go. And I get up and I'm putting the stuff in the truck, and I stand up, and there's Bo with his head over the fence. And I looked at him and I just hugged him and started bawling. We were like this ever since.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I didn't like the horse. He wasn't a good horse.
He didn't care.
Nope. And he could do no wrong after that.
Yeah.
And I sold him later, years later, to someone and said, but I have a buyback contract. We sold him because we weren't riding, we were working, shocker, building, expanding, whatever. And I had a buyback contract, and she messaged me and said, I know you have a contract, I know you get this horse back if you want to, but it's my vet that wants to buy him. And I knew the vet, great vet in this area, and I went, nope, he can have him.
Yeah.
He can have him. I just want to know where he is. I just want to know that he's great.
Yep, that he has a great home. We've done that with several
Oh, yeah.
great old horses that you just, the boys' horse from when Trent was little. We have this really homely white horse we call Silver. Trent named him. There's a huge Roy Rogers and Lone Ranger fan. So Silver is just homely. He just really is. But he's the kindest horse in the world. And so when the boys no longer needed him, we kept him around for a few years and used him for lessons and whatnot. But we have a family in town that have little kids. And then we loaned him to one family first, and that worked okay, but then they kind of lost interest. And so we loaned him to this family, and I told him, you know, for all practical purposes, he's yours, except you can never sell him.
Yeah.
And you have to give him back when I have grandkids.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. When I have grandkids, if he's still alive, I get him back.
That's
so,
awesome.
you know, you get those old souls that you just, you
Yep.
know, they're so amazing.
That's cheap.
Yeah.
That's Colleen's horse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Awesome.
No, oh no, he's lifer. When I ended up getting him, that was my commitment to him, and he's in my will to go to.
Yeah.
You know, he's taken care of, like,
Yep.
to death do us part.
Yep.
You know, I'm not married, but I'm married to my horse.
You
so.
are definitely
Actually, I know some people that are married that have done that with their horses. They have written their horses into their wills and said, I just want to know that this
Trina
horse
will be getting mine.
Yeah, well, we did an episode
Yes.
on.
We did a Candid Conversations episode on dealing with death, and it was what happens to your horses when you die? What do you do with your horses when they die?
Yeah.
You know, how do you set that up will-wise? care if you board, you know, all of that stuff. That was a good one. We had an attorney on that does some of that stuff, and then the manager of it's not a cremation service, but they deal with the horses.
Sure.
It wasn't rendering. Was it rendering?
No, it was
wasn't.
cremation.
It was cremation. Okay, it was.
Was it Good Shepherd?
Good Shepherd.
Yeah.
Yes. But it was a good conversation
was.
about
Stuff you don't want to
think
about or talk about, but
Yeah,
it's needed.
Kind of necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely necessary. There's, you know, and especially today, you know, if you go back in time, horses were a farm implement or a ranch tool, but today they're not.
Yeah.
And even then, they were, you know, horses have always, look, Alexander the Great, his entire military career was on one horse. So I know there was a bond there.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking 325 years before Christ. There's clearly a bond there. So it's not like it's a new thing. But there was probably a lot of horses that were owned during those times when they were just an implement.
Sure.
But today that's not the case.
No.
Today they are almost exclusively a part of the family.
Absolutely.
So you have to deal with that a little bit differently.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. So you're still doing the certification program, right?
Absolutely.
When do you do that? Is that throughout the year?
So we do what we sort of do, it's sort of set up so that there's a course every 6 months.
Okay.
So we have a course, and that's really not 1,000% accurate. We had a course in January and a course in June. That was sort of June, July, and that's kind of morphed now to where we have a course in February and a course in June. So it's you know, it's 5 months, 4 months-ish, whatever, but twice a year.
Okay.
And the idea is, you know, if you're up to it, you can attend really 3 courses in a year and a half. So like Brianna, it took full 3 years, which is honestly a great way to do it.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, and I think you did the same thing.
You learn.
You have that practice
I could go
time.
back
do
and
it.
retake it, and I would learn
Okay.
literally.
You have that practice time too. So you go home, you have this information. You go home, you have a year.
Okay.
And that goes back to my time, you know, as an 18, 19, 20-year-old kid, where I was just like, bring me the horses, bring me, you know, as many as you can bring me, just bring them to me. And so that's what I want these trainers to be able to do.
Yeah.
You know, and so lots of, you know, here you have 2 young ladies that are, you know, young and athletic and strong and blah, blah, blah. Well, lots of my trainers aren't. Lots of my trainers are, you know, nearing retirement and looking for, you know, something to do in retirement, particularly at the journeyman level, but a few of them even at the master level. So I want them to have that chance to work so many horses and get that put together. So, you know, you can do it every 6 months if you want to fast track it. Ideally, I want you to take that 1 a year program. But, you know, like Grant Pease is in Nebraska. He'll be back for his Masters this year. Did he pass his Masters? I'm going to lose that.
Journeyman.
Yeah, so he'll be back for his Masters this year. But Grant can't come in February because that's when they're calving.
Okay.
And then I have people who can't come in June because that's when they're haying. Or that's when they're, you know, whatever. They're running a program of their own. We have that quite a lot. Maddie Stockman struggles with coming from Washington in June because that's when her program's at its height. She works with inner city kids, and that's when it's at its height. So we just try to set it up that way so you can be there when you want, or if you want to, you can fast track and run with it. But it's been a really good program, and it's been for us. So I've had other clinicians call me and say, "How do you get such incredible kids?" I don't really know. I really don't know, but it's been really cool. That program, we have had a lot of really talented young people. Like, you have 2 really great ones here. And I don't mean to hurt their feelings at all, but we could do the same thing in another part of the United States and have 2 really great ones there. And we could pick another. Oh, not as good as these 2, you know.
We might be biased.
But we could pick different states. And it's just, I've had really great, and not all young people. I've had some really great people that are retirement age. We've just been really blessed. The way the program runs, I'm really proud of our master certified trainers.
I think it takes a certain type of person to want to put this much effort into doing this.
Well, and
so maybe that has something to do with it.
And I drive them hard.
Right. Sure.
Like,
Well, if you're going to put your brand on them.
Yeah, I push them pretty hard. Yeah. You know, I'm going to be up pretty early in the morning, and you know, when they're there for a master program, a lot of times I'll tell the master class, you guys need to be saddled at 6, and we'll work from 6 to 8, just us, and then you guys know what you're going to work on for a couple hours, and I'll go work with the journeyman class for a while, and then the masters have to ride all day. They don't get to go take the day off. They ride all day, and then we come back after dinner. And I expect the masters to be out there again after dinner. So they're putting in a 14-hour day easily, and you kind of weed out the ones that don't want to do that.
Sure. Yeah.
They kind of fall by the wayside, and they're like, it's not that much fun.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, I don't want to do that so much. So it's been really cool because we end up with a lot of really great trainers.
That's awesome. It obviously works.
Yep.
It obviously works.
Yep.
I love it. I love it. It's cool to see, to be able to see, I guess, what you've done for yourself and then what you've become and how that's affected so many other people. That's really cool. You don't always get to see how, well, I mean, I guess with Facebook you kind of get to see how people from high school turned out, but you don't always get to like interact with them and really know them.
Right.
And have the opportunity to be like, wow, you really did something cool here.
But you know, think about that year, okay?
Yep.
So, you know, there really wasn't that many of us there.
No.
So, think about what's Ryan doing. He's working with people.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Yeah. So, really, if you track
Jennifer's
it down,
a teacher, working with people.
working with people. If you take down that group of kids from that year, many of them are still working with people. You know, it was, so it's pretty neat to look back and say, wow, that was a group of people who, no, not all of them, some of them we don't know where they are.
Yeah, no, yeah, we don't know where all of them are.
But of the ones that you keep track of and the ones you know where they are, most of them are still doing something working with people. And that, you know, that says something about that group of young people as well.
Yeah.
That, and the environment that we were in at that time, you know, that here was a chance to learn the value of helping others.
Yeah.
And most of us must have learned it fairly well. So, you know, you look at what you're doing as well and say, wow, that's what you're doing is dramatically different from what I do as far as scope of it.
Sure.
But it's still, you're still helping people. You're still using horses to help people.
I absolutely love what I do.
So if you look at Dad handing you Ginger and saying, here's your horse, like a rock thrown in the pond.
Right.
The ripples are going
The ripples,
way
I know, right.
outside.
Thanks, Kurt.
Yep.
I really do need to get back to Wyoming.
Yeah, you should go see it.
I know.
I'd love to see
Ryan and I talk about it all
Trying to
the
get
time.
her to go up next year.
I know.
Oh, that'd be fun, wouldn't it?
It's on the list for
At least
June.
for a couple days.
Oh, believe me.
Yes.
Mark's already got it penciled in. He's like, we're going, right? We're going. I'm like, if we can. He's like, but we're going.
Yeah,
Maybe we'll see you in
my
June.
experience
I love that.
is you just say yes. Just do it.
Do it. Just commit.
The plan is to finish all construction by then and just go. That is the plan.
Well, it's on track.
It's on track.
Yeah.
It's on track.
And if you don't finish the construction, it'll be there when you get home.
Thank
story.
you. There, yeah.
If you don't steal Christy, I'll actually have someone to work at the
I
farm
won't steal Christy.
while I'm gone. See how that works? Trying to
Yeah,
steal my
I told her it's a great job, long hours, no pay.
I know, right? Yeah.
Sign me up.
And yeah. You've gotten quite a few people from your program to come work for you.
Right,
You
yeah.
know, on and off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
great.
that's also been a very good
Invaluable.
program. We do an intern program,
Yeah.
and that's been a very good piece for a lot of people that
Oh, I'll
have
bet.
and stayed with us and interned.
That's awesome.
And that's morphed into a really great program.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I think it's very cool what you've done. I think it's awesome what you've become. I love that we have this here.
Yes.
I'm sure it's all throughout the U.S. with
really
all
is.
of. I mean, just it's so cool.
No, it's a wonderful thing, and it's great to
Thank you.
sit here and be a part of it and be part of this conversation. And yeah, it's a gift.
It is.
It really is.
It is.
And being in the clinic is a gift, and riding
Right.
Luke is a gift.
Well,
Just very
somebody
blessed.
should write him. It's not going to be me.
I'm very blessed, and I appreciate that.
Well, I think it's awesome.
It is.
But we've got 2 more days of clinic for you guys. I won't be here the next 2 days, but you guys have fun, and we will let you guys wrap it up. Thank you for joining us
Yes,
on this.
thanks.
and
Thank you for the
Thank you.
invite.
and
I've
sharing.
enjoyed it.
I know, it was really cool. I learned some new stuff, and hopefully,
Yes.
everybody else did. What is your website? KenMcNabb.com.
KenMcNabb.com.
Okay.
Pretty simple.
Pretty simple, yeah.
Yep.
I love it. Okay, perfect. Well, if you don't know who this is, if you happen to have been living under a rock and just found out, there's KenMcNabb.com. There's the certification program. You've got the Diamond McNabb horse sale.
Diamond McNabb Ranch Horse Sale. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's an incredible program we've had a lot of fun with.
Yep.
Over the last 14 years, we've had, or 13 and a half years, we've had 14 sales.
Wow.
And we've had 2 fall sales and 13 spring sales, so I guess 15 sales, excuse me.
Yeah.
But we've sold around 1,200 head of horses.
Wow.
That have gone on to find really incredible, mostly forever homes. And that's a really neat thing when you get pictures back. So our first sale was in 2009, June 6th of 2009. And I had a really cool horse, big Mexican horse called Buttermilk. And I get pictures every so often.
Oh, that's so cool.
They bought him, he topped the sale, and I get pictures back from him all the time. And we get pictures, people send us a picture, do you remember this horse? And interestingly enough, in Massachusetts, right after I talked with you up there a couple weeks ago, a man stepped up and said, I bought Bert in your very first sale, and I've still got him and just wanted you to know. And Bert was a horse that belonged to one of our consigners. Pete Transtrom was getting married, and he sold his best horse to be able to afford a honeymoon. And he went on a nice honeymoon, I think.
Well, thank you, horses.
Yeah. In 2009, horses didn't have the same value they do today, and that horse brought 11,000.
Wow.
And that man still has him, and that's
awesome.
been really fun for us to be able to. And at times my kids get frustrated with me. They're like, Dad, can't we just keep some of the good ones?
Right.
And I always tell them, console yourself with this knowledge. You worked really hard to build a great horse, which you can do again.
Yep.
But you get to give him to somebody who doesn't have that ability.
Yeah.
And now they get to experience the same kind of great horses that you get to experience.
Because not everybody has that gift.
That's true.
No, or the opportunity,
Right.
to really put that horse to the places and the tests that we put him. Not everybody has the gift or the opportunity, and our family has both.
Yeah.
And it's a neat blessing for sure.
For sure. Definitely. Gosh. Well, we will let you guys wrap it up for tonight. You guys be sure to like and subscribe. Check us out on Facebook, Candid Conversations EQ. Ken's on Facebook. Lauren Beck Horsemanship. What's yours?
I don't have a
Brianna
website,
Wade.
but I have a Facebook page. It's called Golden Acres.
Golden Acres. Okay, so check all of that out. Like, subscribe, share, comment, all the stuff.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.